Hi there, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the editor of the Richmond Shivara. And today with me is Robin Poulton. Hi, Robin.
Hello.
Robin is a board member of the Virginia Friends of Mali, and he is the leading language expert on modern Mali. He is also the author and a teacher, and he has written many books about Mali, including one from which he is going to read us today. The book is called Sunjata, Children of the Malian Empire. So what have you chosen for us today, Robin?
Well, today I thought we would read the title story about Sunjata, who was the Lion King, and about which everybody learns in Virginia in elementary school and middle school.
And you say Lion King, like in Disney?
Well, yes, like Disney, except that this is the real Lion King. This isn't a cartoon. This is the man who created the Malian Empire in the 13th century. He was a real man. But of course, this time we're talking about children of Mali. And so my story is about Sunjata when he was a child living with his mother.
Yes, and talking about mother, I'm familiar with your book. So you are giving the story a slightly different emphasis.
Well, yes, of course, most stories about emperors and generals are written by men, for men, about men, and they are not taking account of the fact that these men were children. I've written a book about children, and one of them is Sunjata. So this is Sunjata as a child. He was born a prince, but he was a cripple. He probably had polio, and his mother was the most important person in his life, and his mother made him the person he became, the Lion King.
Sounds good. So the story is called Sunjata, the cripple who became a lion. And you're going to read it to us.
Certainly
so
am.
Go for it.
In the year 1212, a long time ago, at the time when Robin Hood was fighting for justice and bad King John sat on the throne of England, an African king called Narimagan Konate married a woman called Sogolon Kuruma, and their first child was a small boy. They named him Jata. The parents were very happy with their baby Jata, but to the dismay of his mother, Prince Jata was unable to walk and slow to talk. His legs didn't develop properly when he was 12 months old. Babies normally walk at 1 and talk at 2, but at 2 years old, Prince Jata was not able to walk or talk. We think he may have developed the terrible disease called polio, which can wither one or both legs and leave its victims crippled. Now, the most important person in any child's life is his mother, and Queen Sogolon was a strong woman. By this time, the king had 3 wives, but Sogolon was the queen everybody listened to. Her family totem was the buffalo, the most powerful animal in the West African bush country. And she'd married King Narimagan Konate, whose family totem was the lion, the fiercest animal in the savannah, and the king of animals. With such noble ancestry, the fortune tellers were sure that the son of the Lion King and the Buffalo Queen would be a heroic figure. The griots prophesied a great future for baby Jata. But when he was struck with infantile paralysis, people wondered if the prophecies were false. How could a child cripple become a famous king? In a land where all African women are strong, Prince Jata's mother, Sogolon, was clearly exceptional. Tradition says the buffalo woman had the hunched shoulders of a buffalo. So perhaps Prince Jata's mother was ugly, but it's also possible that her parents called her the hunchback woman because she was such a beautiful child that they wanted to fool the evil spirits that are believed to make mischief on beautiful baby girls. Very ugly, very beautiful. Either way, Queen Sogolon was a striking woman of strong character, and her family totem was the fierce and powerful water buffalo. As is often the case in Africa, the young prince's name was changed in people's mouths. People in the royal palace used to call him Sogolon Jata, using his mother's name with his own name, so often that the two became fused together and condensed to Sunjata. One day when he was about 7 years old, Prince Jata found his mother crying. His mother never showed emotion, so Jata asked her what was the matter. "I am crying, my child, because you cannot walk. The other queens mock you. At your birth, the old women foretold that you would become a great king, and yet I cannot see how you will have any future unless you can walk." "If that's what's making you sad, mother," said the young prince, "I must learn to walk." Prince Jata dragged himself along the ground to the royal forge, where skilled smiths were making iron plows and swords and spears and horseshoes. These were magical people, some of the most revered men in the kingdom of Kangaba, where Jata's father, King Narimagan, ruled. Prince Jata told the chief blacksmith that he needed to walk. The chief blacksmith pulled out a large bar of iron and handed it to Jata. According to Malian legend, the chief blacksmith told him, "Stand with this bar of iron, and the strength of the iron will go into your legs." Jata had strong and powerful shoulders because he spent the past 7 years dragging himself along the ground with his arms. He seized the iron bar and pulled himself upright. And as he did so, the iron bar bent and the prince's legs straightened. Leaning on the iron bar, he walked back to his mother, and it filled her with joy to see her son standing and walking at last. Now, maybe the strength of the iron bar went magically into the legs of Prince Jata. Or maybe this legend is a way of explaining that the chief blacksmith of the royal court of Kangaba created iron calipers around the prince's legs, giving enough strength and rigidity to Sunjata's withered lower limbs so that he could walk. That could explain what the blacksmith meant when he said, "The strength of the iron will go into your legs." Either way, Prince Jata was now able to walk. And now that he had legs to walk, he was also able to ride and control a horse. And as a horseman, he could ride as fast as all the other riders. Statues from medieval Mali, believed to represent Sunjata, always show him on horseback. It was now that King Narimagan called his son to the throne and made an announcement. "Today, I am giving you a precious gift, one that you will need and welcome when you are a powerful leader. This is Balafase Kuyate. He will be your griot, just as his father has been my griot. He will tell you who you are and what your ancestors have accomplished. Listen to him and heed his advice." Balafase was at least 10 years older than Sunjata, a valuable source of historical guidance and political wisdom for the young prince. From that day forward, Balafase Kuyate became the advisor and spokesman for Prince Sunjata. A famous musician and composer, Balafase created epic songs praising the victories and triumphs of Sunjata, songs that the griots of Mali and Guinea still sing today, songs that have endured for 800 years. Mm-hmm. The politics of the region were unstable during Sunjata's childhood. The Ghana Empire had become weak, and Moors from the desert were raiding the countryside to steal cattle and capture people as slaves. Many small kingdoms like Kangaba could not resist the Moors, and yet they were jealous of each other and unwilling to unite behind any one leader against the desert invaders. The king of Susu, Sumanguru Kante, decided to take matters into his own hands, and he set out to conquer the neighboring kingdoms in order to strengthen the region against the Moors. He was successful, but he also killed the kings he conquered, including Sunjata's father, the king of Kangaba. Queen Sogolon was forced to flee. She fled northwards with her children, taking them into exile into the Niger Valley to protect them from harm and persuading the king of Mema to give them shelter. So Sunjata grew up beside the Niger River in Mema, where he learned to be a fine horseman and soldier. His mother became a respected advisor in the court of Mema, and partly thanks to Sogolon, her son was made a cavalry commander in the Mema army. As a young man on horseback, Sunjata's powerful arms and shoulders made him a formidable fighter and a successful war leader. And Sunjata was a very intelligent man. With a clever mother, she protected him through childhood and taught him political leadership. Her influence in Mema and neighboring kingdoms enabled Sunjata to recruit soldiers to take back his kingdom. As the story of the Lion King tells us, Sunjata returned to Kangaba with an army of his mother's allies and reconquered his kingdom. He succeeded thanks to Balafase and also thanks to his sister, Nana, who became a favorite in the court of Sumanguru, the sorcerer and blacksmith king. Together, Nana and Balafase worked as spies, and they betrayed Susu's secret magic secrets to Sunjata. The sorcerer king Sumanguru could only be defeated if he was struck by an arrow made with the white feathers of a fighting cock. At the decisive battle of Kirina in the year 1235, Sunjata shot Sumanguru with a white-feathered arrow, and his wounded enemy galloped away from the battlefield. He went into the mountains of Kulikoro, entered a cave, and disappeared. They say that the sorcerer turned himself into a rock. After his victory, Sunjata received an oath of fidelity from the 12 kings who had brought him soldiers. At a great council, Gabara, outside his father's capital city, they drove their spears into the ground and proclaimed him emperor, Mansa. Kata, they cried, he has taken the throne. And so the Mansa was called Sunjata Kata. The Mansa issued a proclamation called the Kurugan Fuga, a written constitution for the new Mali Empire. It was Sunjata's griot, Balafasi Kuyate, who read out the Kurugan Fuga for all Mali to hear. This ceremony took place 552 years before the American Constitution was adopted. Sunjata's greatness comes in part from his mother, in part from his father, in part from Balefase, his praise singer. This was the man who composed and sang the legend of Sunjata. Throughout history, on every continent, including Africa, great kings are those who chose great advisors and whose story is told and retold across the generations. In the Middle Ages, most history was not written down. It was oral history. We would not know the story of Sunjata Kata without his griot, Balafasi Kuyate, the most famous historian and diplomat and praise singer of Malian history.
Lovely. Great story and a true story. And I
Yes,
think
a true story. This is how the Lion King began his life.
Just as there was 12 kings, you also have 12 stories in this book, and they all talk about children, boys and girls, but not every child can become an emperor. So what other stories
yes.
are you telling us?
One of these stories is about Tumani Jabate, who is Mali's greatest musician and griot, whose ancestors played in the court of Sunjata Kata. He's one of the children I describe. There's a girl called Ziri, who is very excited about elephants, the elephants of northern Mali, who make a pilgrimage every year through northern Mali looking for pastures when the rains are coming. And there's a great story about Miriam, which I read earlier you can also hear She was a little girl who lived in my compound in Bamako. And there's a story of Baba, the cowboy. His father is a herder, Fulani cattle herder, who has a large crop of, or a large herd of cattle. And Baba also has a herd of cattle, which he makes with clay models of cows, and he herds his clay cattle. Rather like I had a herd of clay cattle, only my cattle were made of plastic when I was a small boy. And Baba's were made of clay, and he made them himself, and they were probably better than mine.
Lovely stories. So these are stories different for different age groups. Some are simpler stories, some are more complex, like the one you read to us today has more historical context. And all of these stories are in your book called Sunjata, Children of the Malian Empire. And this book is available on Amazon. It's available as an ebook as well as a paperback. It's a perfect little book for any child, parents, grandparents, and teachers. You can order the book going on Robin's website. The website is robinpoulton.com. Robin Poulton, all one word, robinpoulton.com. You find this book as well as all the other books Robin has written, and you can order them directly from Amazon, as I said, as the ebook or paperback. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the reading today. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, all of these children are aimed at schools, in elementary schools and middle schools. Some of them are a little bit more complicated than others, but most of them can be read by any child, even a child as old as me. Thank you all very much for listening. Goodbye.